Welcome to the GoodHard Story podcast today, guys. I am really excited to tell you that the amazing Leah case here you hear me talk about every episode at the end is in the picture on the mic today, which will be such a treat for all of us. We are going to have a conversation around all things beauty, body image, just our appearance in general. And I don't know, how would you introduce what we're going to talk about? A whole lot of the beauty stuff.
I know. This is an interesting one because I would say that neither of us are experts here.
Absolutely not.
Nor are either of us really into beauty things.
No. What is the name of this episode, actually? Do we know that?
I think it's body neutrality.
Yes, you're exactly right. Okay, yes. That's a great title and a great concept that we will be unpacking today. So yes, welcome to the amazing Leah Case and the fabulous Katherine Wolf talking all things beauty neutrality.
Yes. Well, thanks for having me. It's been a while since I've been on. So
I know. I'm so glad you're
feeling the pressure today.
No, you're so great at this.
All right. So Katherine, give me a little bit of background on your relationship to beauty and body image growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm raised in the Deep South, and I'm from Athens, Georgia, which everyone thinks is a big city because the University of Georgia is there, but it's not. It's a tiny, wonderful town. Deep South culture, though, very much like Southern Belles,
Right.
And
debutantes.
And women better be pretty. Yeah, that's the thing for sure. And raised from a long line of women who would never consider leaving the house without lipstick. So I internalized a lot of messages, both spoken and unspoken, through the years about what I should look like and present as, and goodness, as a Christian from a young age. So complicated in terms of appearance, because on some level, it doesn't really matter, but on another level, you want to look good while being good and be seen looking good while being good for the sake of Jesus,
right?
Which is so messed up.
It is, yeah.
And I just love it. It is so refreshing that you're like, weird.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I mean, I really love your story in those realms.
When I was not raised in the South either. So moving from Detroit to the South was a little bit of a culture shock in that.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely a different culture here. Especially like in the middle school, high school, time.
Yeah.
Tell me about that time of your life. Did you ever struggle with awkward adolescent years, or have you always been fabulous?
Oh, well, why, thank you. I definitely did. I remember going through a stage in middle school where I got really into wearing a headband. YouTube listeners, you can see this. Way back here, I thought it was really cool to wear a crown in back of my head.
Oh, okay.
So there was that combined with some really special, bizarre wrap skirts. Do you remember wrap skirts that were really cool?
Stay away from the wind.
And denim, tops for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a weird situation. And I was as tall as I am now, almost 5'10".
Okay. So there was a lot of long limbs happening.
So really long, awkward limbs with big wrap skirts and bizarre headbands were on the back of my head. So it was a deal.
Adolescence was a dark time for me. I look at teenagers now and I'm like, wow, they look great. Yeah. And that was not the case for me. I don't feel like I really came out of the awkward years until maybe 17.
Yeah.
I wore overalls and a tie-dye shirt and Birkenstocks to school every single Friday of my senior year. So perhaps it was later than 17. And then I had my hair in tight twists secured with a butterfly clip.
Yeah.
And for some reason, this was naturally the Friday outfit choice every week.
I love it. I mean, there is such freedom in how you live. I probably obsessed over Well, that's not totally true either, though. I probably could have obsessed over what I was wearing more than I did. I never knew really what to wear. But see, in a household with 3 girls,
Yes.
you're always fighting over clothes and who's taking what. And it was a whole deal, whole operation.
So we were both raised in 3-girl households.
Right, that is true. You were too. Yeah, it's fascinating.
In my house, it was not like clothes and makeup and hair.
Oh gosh,
was it in your house?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
very much so. My middle sister Amy is actually extremely good with like all things hair, makeup, clothes. I probably rebelled because everyone else in my family is, so I don't care.
Right.
Thank God I married a man who doesn't mind picking out my clothes and ordering them online. And J Wolf has, because he also has 3 little sisters,
right.
and he actually is from a family of 3 girls plus him, has adapted well to handling a lot of this. So thank you, J Wolf.
I know. I sometimes I wish Jay would order my clothes.
Yeah. It is nice. Most people don't have a live-in personal stylist, and I do. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think in our house, my mom wasn't really into like fashion and beauty. I mean, she dresses great. She wears makeup, but it just wasn't a major focus in our house. So it's just so interesting how much that can reflect in our, in our future years now in my 40s, and how our house is. That's just not a big focus in our house either.
Right.
So,
well, it's definitely been a deal for me.
Yes, for sure.
Well, and the main reason, and we may get to this in a minute, but I'll just go ahead and say this now, that because I got pregnant at 24, had a baby at 25, then turned 26, and a few weeks later have a massive stroke. And throughout those 3 periods, we're talking as a 25-year-old, I gained 60 pounds while pregnant with James. Have him 6 months later, as I finally started to consider power walking or something to get some of this baby weight off, I have a massive stroke that leaves me severely disabled with a paralyzed face.
Right.
So that all that craziness in such a short period of time really rocked me in realms of like, the utility of my body, and not being able to do things like walk anymore easily, but also my appearance. And to back up, prior to that, I had done a decent amount of commercials in Los Angeles, literally made our income for my husband, who was in law school at the time, from doing some modeling gigs. So talk about a messed up situation.
Well, and I'm sure this whole feeling, I have 3 kids myself, and that postpartum feeling, you already feel like you're like, whose body is this? So you're in the middle of that season, basically, when you had your stroke.
Right. Yes.
And then years of probably thinking, whose body is this?
Right.
And what do I do with this?
Does this all matter? How do I feel? How do I live inside a body that doesn't work? I can remember the first time I saw a mirror. It's so funny. So for several months after my stroke, I was completely bedridden. I obviously, or if I was getting out of bed, it was multiple physical therapists, transferring me to try to relearn to walk. But I never saw a mirror, which is so freeing. It was wild. So I never knew my face was paralyzed.
Right.
I knew it was completely numb, and the inside of my mouth, half of it was numb, which it still is today. But I did not know that numbness was also full half facial paralysis.
Right.
And I knew my eyes didn't track. So I knew, I'm seeing 2 images. But at that time, when I first saw myself in the mirror, one of my eyes, my right eye, was fully turned in facing my nose. So they had to do surgery to move it out. But even now, the eye still didn't track. But at least aesthetically, do they look even?
Yeah.
So I think mostly they are even.
Yes.
However, imagine if you look at yourself in the mirror, you don't know your face is paralyzed. Your face is paralyzed. Your eye is facing the center. Me, who has highlighted my hair faithfully for many, many years, has like weird, kind of mousy brown hair looking gauntly. I mean, I was so underrated at that point.
I bet,
It was horrific. I looked really bad off. So I'm looking at this mousy brunette with this gaunt face and a paralyzed half of a face and an eye that turns into the middle. And I can remember kind of staring at it and being like, this is so weird. And it wasn't like a tragedy.
Right.
Because I had bigger fish to fry.
Right. Yes. That's what I was thinking. You had so many other things going on.
Yes. Praise God, honestly, because it could have been an obsession of, oh my gosh, what? This is nuts. But instead, I'm like, I can't eat food.
Right.
I can't walk. Like, I have bigger problems than the fact that my appearance has gone out the window.
Right.
And that is such a good perspective, I think, is a takeaway. Perspective is a deep gift in our story, all of our stories and in our appearance. But it was surreal. I felt like I don't recognize the stranger in the mirror.
For sure.
I think I felt, fascinatingly, a lot of embarrassment.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. I had no idea. So I'm like walking the halls, relearning to walk, telling the nurses that they can have hope, that I survived. I'm a miracle. I felt so free and like so excited to encourage them. And then it dawned on me all along, this frame is what they're seeing. It was a mind-bending situation.
Yeah, that is a really interesting perspective to think like, you're giving them this encouragement because you're feeling so much like victory and triumph of the fact that like you're alive, you're walking. And then it's like, but are they thinking like, oh that poor lady.
Oh my word. Or look at her face.
Right. I hope that never happens to me. And you're like, I'm alive. I'm here. Like that's a lot of.
It was a weird deal.
Yeah.
And to this day, I mean, especially small children, because they have no filters, will always say what happened to your face or what happened to your mouth, which I'm used to now. But when that would first happen, I kind of recognized, adults recognize it too. They just know to not say something about it. So that made me feel really self-conscious of, oh my word. But obviously it hasn't lasted because I plaster my face everywhere constantly. So evidently it didn't like keep me from showing my face to the world.
I feel like you have a beautiful confidence in who you are, in your body as it is. And that has not been something that, I mean, that could truly be just chains on somebody that's lived in your situation. I'm sure there's people out there who do feel like that, or maybe are still working through.
Well, and I am too. I don't pretend to have arrived, but it really touches me that you say that. I could cry. I'm like, really? You think that? Like I want desperately to find help in all these realms, even with the realities that I'm dealing with, but I feel like I'm not. So thank you.
No, yeah, I definitely feel, I've never thought that you carry that like insecurity around, specifically like your looks.
Totally. And I want to toe that line of, I don't want to ever be overly confident. Because that's disgusting. I hate like a super vain understanding of the world. Like it's just not that important. That's why I love that we're talking all about body neutrality. I'm sure we'll get to that in a moment. I'm always jumping ahead.
No, well, that was the next thing on our list.
Okay, so, perfect.
You've never, I kind of just said this, that you don't invest a lot of time or emotional energy in fretting over the way you look. Like you said, like you'd be fine wearing sweatpants every day. You know, as a professional woman who goes on stage that you will spend time to look nice to show up for your job, but that's not an obsession that you're like, I can't leave the house without, doing my hair.
You're right. It is very like complex because I am aware of that. Like, but I'm about to speak to 8,000 people and
I should take my pajamas off.
Right. And I got some like deep roots happening and I forgot my makeup bag and it's also tricky because
Right.
you want to look your best, but
I think there's that balance of like wanting to show up your best and like, you know, coming to work or coming to an event or leaving your house dressed does not mean that you are vain and focused on yourself. It's just wanting to show up feeling your best. And I think there is like a tension that it's okay. That's okay. There's a line.
No,
so
you're right.
Shame seems to be at the center of our fixation on beauty and bodies. It's a powerful motivator to spend time and money fixing our flaws. I don't know about you. I'm in my 40s. My Instagram ads are very well targeted on the machines to lift your cheeks or the Botox, all of the things.
Oh, totally.
And then make you think that like, oh, if I don't fix these things, like then I should be ashamed to show my face in public if I have wrinkles, you know? Where do you think this shame comes from? And do you think it affects all of us?
This is such a fascinating conversation. I'm so interested in the root of why we feel shame connected to anything, but definitely our appearance.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I actually think that, and I write about this in Suffer Strong, that true beauty is walking away from shame, that we have all these messages really our whole life about what we are supposed to look like to be loved, honestly, to be loved well and to be celebrated. And so we feel shame when we fall short of that.
Yeah.
And it's a tragedy. But I think what's happened is that as a response to that reality, there's this huge movement for positive body positivity. And while that can be a wonderful thing, body positivity is great. I'm here for it. I spoke on a panel about it at my alma mater, Stanford University, a couple of years ago. I love it in many ways, but it's making the focus the body.
Right.
So I'm actually definitely not into body negativity or body positivity, but rather body neutrality of it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, let's not elevate the body to be the most important part of who I am. It is a part of who I am for sure. And as a woman with disabilities, I like to be loud and clear about that. Bodies matter.
Yeah.
However, it's just not the most important thing is body positivity, I don't feel like.
I have an interesting journey in this myself. So I was raised, my mother's mom was not great with her children. She was very nasty to them about their bodies. It was all about thinness. Thinness equals goodness.
Yeah.
In the home my mother was raised in. That is a generational cycle in our family that my mom chose to stop with the three of us, which I think
so cool.
It's so cool. And it is very rare. As a mother, you realize how much you can put your own baggage on your kids.
Oh, for sure.
And so my mom, you know, she has a lot of baggage from her mom, but she chose not to continue carrying that forward.
Really
so
cool.
We never really talked about our bodies in our house. Like it just wasn't ever like maybe don't eat that, you know, or maybe you need to do this. And I ended up being a very, very overweight teenager. And quite honestly, didn't really know that because my parents never shamed me. They never were like, would you want to go to Weight Watchers or let's do a family diet together, you know? And this is no shame to anyone's parenting, but it was like such a non-issue that it wasn't until I hit my 20s that I was like, oh, maybe I want to lose 5 pounds. And I realized that I had to go on my own health journey and that I wasn't healthy in my body at that point.
Yeah.
But I didn't have all of this baggage connected to like, I want to lose weight so people will like me better or like because I'm bad, or it was just like this. I really realized it when I hit my 30s of like, there wasn't the emotional baggage around my body because of the shame that was not laid on me as a child.
Oh, for sure.
So then, you know, I lose all this weight. I had my kids. And in the middle of my 30s, I ended up getting really into CrossFit and I was ripped. I mean, like just muscles and lean. And I got told all the time how good I looked. How do you know, I mean, all the praise was put around the body.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, hello, who's not going to want to be told like, you look great. What do you do? What do you do?
Of course.
Well, then I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and essentially all of that fell apart. And then nobody's commenting on my body. I gained a significant amount of weight as I figured out what was going on. And it was interesting because it helped. I went on this journey of realizing how much pressure society does put on like the goodness of your body. And I'm like, wow, I was good. And everyone said I was so good, but really my body was like eating itself and getting diseased. And then it wasn't good and nobody noticed. Or they noticed, they didn't want to say anything.
Right.
So it was really interesting. And thankfully, I would say I would credit the fact that I didn't go through an emotional spiral in all of this to the fact that I wasn't carrying baggage from childhood of like the shame. And it really was a neutral situation. Like, I am not bad for gaining weight. I am not good for losing weight. It's literally like, no, this is just a body. It is a vehicle. I want to treat it well. I want to honor God with how I use my body, but this is neutral. There's no emotion attached to that.
Yeah, it's real. That's very powerful, Leah. It's really cool that you are aware. Oh, the reason this didn't have the same power was because I don't have the history of having that. But that's really cool.
Of the shame, like carrying the shame bag with you. And then as a mother now, who knows what it was like to struggle with my weight, to not then put my own baggage on my girls of like, I don't want them to have the same struggle. And it's like, they won't, if I just equip them, this doesn't have to be a thing.
You're okay. And you kind of know on some level they're going to be okay.
Right.
Yeah, you've done it.
And
it's really cool.
Weight and bodies don't define us. Big, small,
totally
paralyzed face.
Yeah, seriously.
No arms. You know, this is not defining the goodness of who we are, because that is not who we are in Christ. Is not like how ripped we are or how perfect our body is by the world's standards.
I may have quoted it on here before, but I was very struck by a C.S. Lewis quote I read years ago that don't say, I have a soul. I am a soul. I have a body.
I love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I thought that was so powerful. No, I have a body, but I am a soul, and there is a difference.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been on this journey to recognize so much of our physical body, our appearance, but our personhood through this vehicle is how we show up for the world.
Right.
This is the only interface I will ever have with existence. And that's a pretty profound thought, that this is it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't get a new body no matter what I try to do to it to make it look different. This is what God has given me at this specific intersection of time and space.
Right.
This is what I got. So
and where am I going to put my energy?
What am I going to do with it? Absolutely. Because this interface with the world has a brain, has a soul, has a voice, even with a paralyzed vocal cord. Got a voice, got a face, got a life here. And I don't want to waste it.
Well, and as our dear friend Jess Connolly says, that it is a good body.
Right.
You know, this is a good body despite all of the flaws that we all have, or, you know, whatever disabilities or whatever. It is a good body.
Jess Conley, what is it she says that's so good? I think you've said it to me. Don't talk to my friend like that.
Yes. Caroline says that.
Yes, Caroline.
She's so good about that.
Oh yeah. That Jess Conley, she did a workshop for all of us ladies that camp one session years ago based on her book. What's the name of the book? Cut that part.
Breaking Free from Body Shame.
Breaking Free from Body Shame, which we'll link to in the show notes. So good. I wrote the foreword. Big fan. And in it, she writes about that. Like, don't talk to yourself the way you would not talk to a friend. So,
right. Yeah.
Like, positive self-speak to yourself. You're not going to be like, you look so ugly today.
Yeah. We had taken a picture once and I was like, that picture is horrible. And Caroline was like, don't talk to my friend like that. Or don't talk about my friend like that. And I was like,
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Really, really cool. Good job, Caroline.
Yeah.
You're healthier than we are in these realms.
That's a good one. A few episodes ago, you spoke with your dear friend, Brooke Hensley, who we all love so much. And she introduced what you were just talking about, that third way of beauty. So, you know, there's body negativity, talking down on yourself. Then it's like we swung there for, I would say, like quite a few years, the body positivity.
Right.
And now
totally.
it does feel like we're moving to the body neutrality. And I think this is becoming a more common way of thinking.
Good.
What do you think
good.
the difference, though, is between body positivity and body neutrality?
Right. The energy, the focus, the obsession with, we got to be so positive about these, whatever it is, these hips.
Right.
When how about we just think they're hips?
They're just hips.
They're hips. Like take the power out of it. And it's not such a loaded, I don't know, so many things can feel kind of like agenda laden. Do you know what I mean? Like we got to be positive for the sake of the cause.
Right.
Of positivity, but it's like, how about you just be neutral?
Just exist.
Not like a big thing in light of some real big things.
And it becomes very self-focused then. It's like,
oh gosh, so much.
A lot of self-praise versus like.
Right. All about me. You're exactly right. Yeah, navel gazing. Literally, talking about body image, navel gazing is happening when you're trying extreme body positivity. With that said, of course, I love body positivity in many ways. Goodness, if you're going to bend one way, bend positive.
For sure. Yeah. But let's keep it neutral. Yeah. You were mentioning to me earlier today that there was an article that was in the Live original.
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about that. You were saying it really just stood out to you.
Absolutely. If I may, I'd love to read a little part of it. This was an article for the low body image piece about walking away from shame that was on her blog.
Yeah.
But it kind of made me do somewhat of a deep dive into, well, what do I think about all these things? So I'll read this. I'm choosing to use my one precious body to fully engage my one precious life, while believing the best comes after death of this body. The wrinkling and softening of age feels less scary when I reframe them as mile markers along the rich journey to eternity with God. I'm training myself to not merely tolerate, but celebrate my broken brain and body because they didn't ruin my perfect life. Rather, they gave me the gift of a good hard life. Because my outer body has suffered, my inner life has flourished. I have reframed my deficits as grounding truths that remind me my worth was never tied to my facial symmetry or fitness level.
That's so good.
I know. It almost makes me cry. I'm like, oh.
Man, so you definitely live that out in so many different areas. I mean, yes, your body changed, but your entire life changed. And so you've had to reframe a lot of areas of your life.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have come up with good almost exercises to bring you out of despair into the light. Do you have any and you may not.
Yeah.
When you look in the mirror some days and you're like, wow, this face or are there any things that you do repeat to yourself to remind yourself of the truth?
Yeah, of course. One thing I definitely, in this stage of life, as a 42-year-old, say and recognize is we're all aging. It's not just me.
No.
I mean, and that's...
I have burns from tape on my face last night from trying to hide my wrinkles.
Right,
so
using tape or
give
something?
me some quips to give myself when I look in the mirror and see my wrinkles.
Well, I don't know if I have any tips because I'm going, oh, wait, she's gotten really old. Like her eyes are getting like a lot smaller and she looks really tired all the time. And yet I think I'm trying to, failing at it always, but trying to look back and say like, this is everybody's journey. This is completely normal. Get over yourself. Get over the life.
And we are aging. I think that's something I've been really realizing lately. Like I was saying, the media is telling us like you're aging, but don't let anyone know it, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, why don't we want anyone to know it?
Right. Aren't we actually secretly a little bit proud of it?
Right.
No one would say that everything is so allergic to age, but isn't there like a small part of us that's like, we are here. We are in our 40s. We've made it this far.
Yeah.
We're going to keep going. Like, I really wish that was a cultural narrative. Maybe it will be one day. Is like the elderly are seen as the ones who made it through life alive. And
think of the last 17 years of your life. have told a tremendous story.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why do we need to hide that?
Right. I know. I need to be proud that I am getting old, because that means I'm here. Right. And that's kind of a cool story. And yet I'm very aware that it's so complicated.
It really is. Yeah.
It really messes you up to, just be seen all the time and feel judged all the time, which actually we all are right now because of things like social media, specifically things like Instagram. Our faces are everywhere all the time. It's really unhealthy for us, probably.
Yeah.
Kind of long for the days when we didn't really know that often what we looked like.
Yeah. I was messaging a friend because I saw a picture of her sister-in-law, and I was like, what does she do to her skin? And then she's 24. So that's what she does. Her skin. Exactly. I was like, okay, we're playing two different games here.
Yeah. She's 24. And that is true. And by the time, it is true. And maybe I didn't notice it in my 30s much, but now in my 40s, I'm like, oh, the skin on the face is changing.
Yeah. And the elastin is leaving our bodies.
The elastin has left the room. Yeah.
Because it's just, truly, it's so fascinating just how our body, seeing my own kids start to come out of little kid bodies and coming into teenager bodies. And then you see these seniors in high school and you're like, they are adults. And it's like the journey, it's truly, we're in aging, dying bodies. Yeah. And there's literally nothing we can do to stop that.
Right.
Embracing the fact that we are souls in bodies and that can be it. It can be.
That's a good word.
It can just be it.
I think 2 Corinthians 4:16 says, therefore we don't lose heart, though outwardly we're wasting away. Inwardly we are being renewed day after day, for our light momentary trials are achieving for us a glory that cannot be revealed. And I love that thought as well. It's being probably more neutral.
Yeah.
It's just not everything. The outward appearance is wasting away. It merits value because it's a soul and it has worth in here.
Right.
However, it's not the focus.
Yeah. Ooh, this is convicting me.
I know, me too.
I sit here with my tape burns on my face.
I love it that you have tape burns. I definitely, and I hope no one would take that from this conversation that, Katherine totally arrived at looking in the mirror in the morning and just smiling at what she sees and saying, that is so awesome that my face is paralyzed. Yeah, right. I'm just hopefully at a healthier place of recognition that it's okay.
Yes, exactly. I love it. All right, Katherine, we've come to the end of our journey here.
Okay.
But I have one more question for you.
Yes.
What do you see when you look in the mirror?
When I see my paralyzed face staring back at me in the mirror, I see a woman in the process of transformation. I see the stretch marks on my body and think, those are scars because I've had 2 babies. Oh, hallelujah. And one was actually both were full-on miracles. So I have 2 children.
Yeah.
When I see stretch marks that aren't from the babies, that's probably because I'm eating some fabulous, delectable treats all the time. So they're reminders that I can eat food.
Yeah.
And you get it on and on. When you start to trace back the imperfections, you're like, they're from some really good living.
Tells a story.
It tells a beautiful story. And it shows a story of hard-won, second-chance life in my case. And that's profoundly beautiful.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
I think so. I agree.
I got some thinking to do after this one.
Hello, me too. Always. Never arriving, but always thinking through. What is that passage of scripture? We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. What is that?
I don't know.
It's real catchy. Maybe it's not a Bible verse. We can link to it in the show notes if it is. And Alex, if you don't cut this, if you do, it's fine. But we do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. Something like that.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good. Leah, I'm so excited as a GoodHard Story podcast longtime listener through being at my kitchen table. I love getting to ask you this question at my kitchen table, which is what is good in your story, what is hard in your story, and how do you live in the tension of both of those in your GoodHard story?
Yeah. I think what is good in my story is that our kids right now, they're 13, 11, and 9, are in super sweet seasons. Just seeing them develop in their own faith and really come into who they are as people is really neat. We've both had the realization lately that like, oh my gosh, we made it through those little years of
seriously.
like just really hard where they were sick all the time. And I'm like, we have like kids who are becoming people,
adults,
and that's so good. And that is also the hard, guiding them in those steps, continuing to point them to Christ. I think oftentimes as parents, we want to manipulate our own ideas into their minds.
Oh, for sure.
And just kind of releasing that control and trusting that the Lord is going to shape their stories exactly how they need to be shaped. So, but it's hard.
It's so hard.
It's a lot of work.
I will piggyback on that with my GoodHard for the moment. Since I'm being interviewed this time, I get to say it.
Yes,
right?
yes.
That actually is very linked to mine, because what is good is that the man, Jimmy, aka formerly known as James, is awesome. I love so much about him as a 17-year-old, and very much like he's like becoming a caretaker to me. Like he's being a mini Jay in terms of he just now automatically puts his arm out to walk reach at the car. He doesn't even think about it. Little John's learning, but not there yet, of how to take care of mom. Like James can take me
and not
anywhere.
Just be thinking about himself.
Yeah,
all the time.
Finally.
Okay, so we've got a few more years. That is what I'm hearing.
Well, yeah, exactly. But that is what is hard. It's It's now the countdown is on. It's nearly, it's spring of his junior year. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So he's going to be gone in like under a year and a half.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just finally getting good.
Right.
It's a real sadness. And then I'm mourning even now that when children go to college, and see, I never had this as the oldest. I never knew what this feels like to have your sibling leave. But I'm like,
I loved it. Sorry, sisters. Love you.
It?
I loved being the only child for a few years.
Oh, I pray that's John's. I pray John sees that as like, okay, good. Now I'm on my own with my parents, because James is his best friend.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, it's so painful. But maybe,
and he's young too. So there's like all those layers. I was in high school when my sisters left. So I was like, get out of here. I want all the dinners out with mom and dad.
Well, seriously, John will be in 5th grade. So who knows?
It's going to be great.
We're praying it's going to be great. That's right.
You guys keep saying you're going to get a dog when Jimmy leaves.
That's exactly true.
I feel like you shouldn't do that. Maybe a fish.
Yeah, we're going to bite the bullet, but maybe
a fish.
Maybe it's a turtle.
Turtle. Yeah, there we go.
Something that doesn't have fur and that we don't have to touch.
Yeah, we have fish, and I'll be honest, I'm obsessed with our fish. It's weird. I did not see that one coming. So
I love
maybe you could start there, because you don't have to like pay for someone to watch them when you go away.
John suggested a pet deer the other day.
A deer? Oh, well, you live in the right place for that.
Like, well, maybe not, but I love that you have a heart for a little Bambi to come live with us. Anyway, this has been such a great episode. I'm so grateful to the fabulous Leah Case for being here.
And thank you to the fabulous Katherine Wolf for having me on.
Oh, gosh, it is such a gift to get to think through, process, maybe even unlearn some truths about beauty and many other things. So I'm grateful for these conversations, and thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. And I'm grateful for just rethinking, redefining, processing how we view absolutely everything. As I've said before, I believe you can survive anything when you redefine everything. And when your life is blown up, you don't get a choice. It's time to redefine. So the smart ones go ahead and redefine.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Enough said, guys. Thank you so much for being here always.